Okay. All right. Are we live? Yay. Okay. I do this every time. I act as though I can't see the live button. I almost feel like it's not real. Hey, everybody. Hi, LinkedIn land. That's what we've been calling everybody, right, Ash?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, okay, this is number 3 of our LinkedIn Live series on the Untitled, What I Really Do Is. This has been a really fun series. We have done asset managers and chief people culture officers. And I think it's kind of cool that we're representing Atlantic Pacific again because Melissa from Atlantic Pacific was our very first guest along with Dan, and she was from Atlantic Pacific. So very excited to have a repeat management company. That's kind of fun. Let me share my screen before we get into our intros and who we are. Is anyone else freezing today in Atlanta? I am frozen. It's like not good. I feel like it's winter. I know both you ladies are in Florida.
Yeah,
Is anyone
Tara,
else
we
in
don't feel
Yeah.
bad for you.
They can't
Just
relate.
wanted
They
to.
cannot relate.
Yes. Okay, do we see the screen? We good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so again, I think one of the things that I've learned in my 20 plus years in the industry is it's not really about your titles. And there's actually a debate on do titles really matter? I think they matter in a way, but they don't really tell your story. So I feel like there's a lot of people who agree with that statement. So that's what we're going to get into today. But I want to kind of tell you what the why is. So, why did I pitch this idea to MSB and why have they agreed to have this series? Well, in our name, we want to be a resource. So, I think any trusted partner that you work with in the industry, we can be a resource. And so, that is one thing. We're going to be a resource for information and kind of really tackle what these roles mean in our industry. There's a lot of assumptions happening. I think you can agree. You might get a business card at a networking event, look at the card, look at the title, and just go, I have no idea what that person does, but you might think you do. So we're going to kind of take those assumptions out. And I think one of my favorite is inspiring the next generation. No matter what your role is, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, I think we all have kind of a responsibility to inspire that next generation that may or may not do exactly what we're doing. But and then also supporting our recruiting team. So
Mhm.
Ashley, who we'll introduce in a second, she's on the recruiting team. This will help her make even more effective placements. So that is the exact why. And again, title doesn't define us, impact defines us. So I think let's just jump in and get started. I did not get her permission to do this, but Ashley, I am going to call you out and say congratulations. She just got promoted.
Oh,
So we,
Thank you.
congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah, we started off our Monday call as a team learning that she got promoted. So Ash, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Ashley Kahriman. I've been at MSB now for, gosh, almost 5 years, which feels crazy to say. And it also feels crazy to be senior director of anything at the ripe age of 32 years old. But I'm so excited. And what I do, I find great people, I introduce them to great companies, and I convince both sides that they're perfect for each other. And it's my favorite part of every single day, especially getting an offer for someone who's been really looking and looking for a long time and finally feels like they found a great place to call work home. So, love what I do.
Oh, I love that. Well, congrats. And I am Tara Samuels, and I have been in the industry for over 20 years. I just celebrated 1 year with MSB, but what I love is I've played both sides of the industry, spent 10 years on site, and I have been on the supplier side since '09. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I love the creativity, like doing things like this. Ashley, is there anyone, before we introduce our guests, what's going on in our
Yeah.
chat? Who do we have here?
We got Denise in Arizona. It's 90 plus there. Michelle chimed in. It's 90 plus in Florida.
Yeah.
We got Jessica, who's excited for sweater weather, as am I, as you can see. And just Todd is here. Hey, Todd, it's good to
Hey,
see you.
Todd.
Yeah, lots of people in the chat.
Well, and Todd was one of our guests last month along with Alan Walsh. So Todd, say hi to your mom for us. So I've popped up these lovely ladies on the screen. They're going to do a more in-depth intro in just a few minutes. But Michelle, do you want to just say a quick hello?
Hey everyone, I'm Michelle Fording, formerly Michelle Wood. So if you knew me in the past, I have rebranded myself as of recently. Nice to see you all here.
And Janice?
And I'm Janice Szymanski-Dizuzio, and I will say Team Bryten is representing. When I look in the chat, there's like 7 of our team members there. So thanks to everybody who's joining, whether you're with Bryten or not.
I love that. And can I just say, this is actually a fun fact. There's always been one guest of the 3 series that has had a particularly long or challenging last name.
We don't make it easy on you.
You do not. That was actually really, really good. So
I will never
try
try to moderate a session that Janice is on. Never. I never want to say that name.
She's like, I'm not saying it.
It's okay.
I just want to say a couple quick things about MSB Resources that you may not know, and then we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes of why we're really here. So who are we? As Ashley alluded, she's basically a matchmaker. She's placing great people with great companies. So we love to challenge. A lot of people say that their most valuable asset, if you work on the owner manager PMC side, is the actual asset. We disagree. We think it's your people, because the people that you hire and you place and grow within your company, they're the ones who are going to take care of that asset. So we're really all about your people. We have been in business over 20 years. We're all things recruiting, retention, referrals. One of my main focuses, other than hosting these lovely LinkedIn Live series, is our workplace solutions division. And a lot of people are like, what is that? It's really about retention. So through our partnership with Dr. David Wyman, who's a psychologist that we have worked with for over 15 years, he helps us and management companies with organizational surveys, 360 assessments, virtual workshops, and executive coaching. So the most popular thing we're doing right now, a lot of people are stressed out. We're doing a resilience workshop. It's a 1-hour workshop. It's great. So these are the things that we focus on as a company. But now I'd like to turn it over to our guests. And so what I have on the screen is some fun facts that they each submitted. But I would love, Michelle, I know you're going to kick it off first. Let's spend a few minutes here talking about not just how your journey was in multifamily, but feel free to add in anything personal that could really help the audience get to know you better. So take it away.
Yeah, thanks for that. And it's true, my dachshunds do run my life. They're the only reason I was on time for work today. They like to get up at 4 a.m. But, you know, a little bit about me is that I started in this industry as an 18-year-old single mom, really just looking for a job that had health insurance. And I wasn't really thinking about a career or my calling. And it was just stability that I was seeking. And so when my first opportunity came in this industry, I was with Fairfield Residential back in the day. And about within my first 90 days, this trainer came in and hosted a leasing class. And when I was thinking about telling everybody about who I am, this moment really shaped my career and who I am, because it was the first time that I had like a professional training done. And it had a construction theme. I can still see the binder she gave us. And I had no idea at the time that that moment was going to shape the next 2 decades of my life. It really wasn't until probably 5, maybe 8 years later that I realized I had another purpose. And that was really after I had worked my way up through the ranks that many of us probably have, the leasing assistant, manager, regional. That regional year, that was the longest 12 months of my life. People talk about failing forward. I think I failed forward, backward, and side to side. But I was blessed with some really incredible mentors who actually saw more in me than I saw in myself. And I have to thank people like Lisette Sabatino, who I currently work with, who showed me the way, and Randy Weisbert, our COO, who believed in me. And Tara, you know Brett Duke. He spent countless hours teaching me the financial side of operations, and truthfully consoling me through so many hard parts. And after that year, I really found my stride in something, which was marketing and culture. And back then, this was probably, I don't know, 13 years ago, I became the director of marketing and training. That was back when you could almost do both. So I was trying to do marketing and training and realized pretty quickly that I needed to split the two departments. And I kept going. I had a strong case of imposter syndrome. I didn't feel good enough. I didn't think that the work I was doing was impactful enough. And I just made the hard decision to leave the company that had believed in me. That was really towards the end of 2018. And I joined another company that I had stars in my eyes for. Their marketing just made my heart beat faster, and it was Matrix at the time, and now Rangewater. And I think if I had known a pandemic was coming, I probably wouldn't have had the guts to move on, because that was scary. But I grew tremendously over those 2 years as a professional, and my imposter syndrome went out the window. I got confirmation that I knew what I was doing and I could do hard things. And honestly, my professional journey led me back to Atlantic Pacific when in late 2021, I got a text from 𝗨𝗡 that said, "So, are you ready to come home?" And the journey of the self-discovery that I had gone through, that message kind of like rocked my world and changed everything. And I was ready to come back. And at the time, I didn't realize that that text meant she was recruiting me for the director of learning role, because I thought, oh, somebody must have left the marketing role. Like, why would she want me in that role? And when we were talking, it was that moment back in 2002 at Fairfield where that binder and the class and the trainer who had started it all for me, her name was Jackie Lyon. She's still in the business, and I've told her what the impact was that she had on my career. But she had given me confidence and direction when I didn't even know that I needed it. And that's when I knew this role was what I wanted. I wanted to give what she had given to me to others. And so I came back actually in October of 2021. Actually, yesterday was my 4-year return anniversary. They don't like to let me forget that I did leave, but I came back, and we have a lot of boomerangs. But I was promoted in late 2022 to Vice President of Learning and Engagement. And when I was coming back, I spoke to 𝗨𝗡 and the management team about wanting to change the role from director of learning or director of training and being learning and engagement, because learning and engagement for me meant that it embodies the piece of the role that I think gets overlooked, which is like the culture and the people part. I'm not just facilitating training, I'm helping shape our culture. So what started as a job that I needed for insurance actually turned into me finding my lifelong purpose. So I'm really happy to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me today.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote down a couple things before we go into Janice's intro that I think is so common in the multifamily industry is the boomerang.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay if you either go to another company or even go outside the industry. I think it kind of enhances your skill set, brings different perspective. And multifamily is a little behind other industries, so it kind of brings some fresh eyes. But one thing that was really impactful that you said is you said within like 5 to 8 years later, you found your purpose. And so anyone who's kind of just getting started, have some patience, because Michelle did not find her purpose for a while. And I think that's pretty common. So I wrote that down, and I think that's pretty impactful.
I would agree with you. And that's one of the biggest challenges I see, and not, I'll say this quickly, is especially Gen Z or, some of the younger folks, they want immediate changes, and they're jumping ship so quick. And it's like, I sat at a property for 7 years, but during that 7 years, I used it as like a master class for me to learn the skills I needed for the purpose I had found. And I think that there's a lot of value in that. So I would encourage people who are new, who maybe haven't found it, and, if you have a role you can do with your eyes closed, do it and focus on finding that purpose, because that's what I was able to do.
I love that. And
Yeah.
Janice, so we have both Floridians in the house. Janice, I love that you and Michelle have very similar roles, but you have the word development in your title. So I'm interested to kind of hear more about your journey and what led you to today. So take it away.
Sure. Thanks, Tara. So I did not start in the industry. I started in hospitality, and I was very lucky that I was able to do that sort of across the United States. I grew up in New Jersey, and that's where I first started with Marriott, and then was able to move with them to Arizona, Texas, and California. And once I decided that hospitality was not going to be my forever, while I loved it as an industry, Michelle sort of sought out insurance. I was seeking out weekends and holidays. I was desperate to just have a life outside of hospitality. And same thing, my sort of history there, I've taken a lot of those lessons. It was absolutely impactful through the rest of my life. My team, if I know quite a few of them are on, they hear me talk about Marriott so frequently, and it's helped create this journey. So once I left hospitality, I got into corporate housing for just a short period of time, and I did love that. But then before I even hit my 90th day with the company, I got a phone call while I was running on a treadmill in Arizona. And it's funny because I don't normally answer phone calls from numbers that I don't know. But this time around, I decided to. Something must have just said, this is an actual call you should take. And it was the board president for a community in Florida seeking out a property manager. Well, the funny thing is it was for the company that Michelle works for. So I first started my career with Atlantic Pacific, and I have known Michelle for my entirety in the multifamily industry, and truly admire her and love her. So not only do I get to just run into her and see her at events, and we get to maintain our friendship, it's just cool that we're on this together. So, and that we share such similar titles. Engagement and development sort of go hand in hand. While there's differences in the spelling or maybe the definition, we're both aiming for the same goal. We want our team members to not only learn, but take that knowledge and develop or engage with us through the rest of their journey. So while they might be different, there's a lot of similarities there. I would attribute, I think, my L&D experience to I have always been hungry for knowledge. I'm a big reader. I really enjoyed college from the standpoint of learning. Although I surely did other things while I was in college, did take a lot away from it from a learning experience. And I've always just thought of, I can't exist in this world without continuing to learn more. And so I love helping people do that too. So I think that's my goal, or maybe my motto within L&D is I just want to encourage everyone to continue to do that. We get so bogged down in the day-to-day that sometimes it feels like learning has to be separate from that, but it doesn't. If you integrate it into your daily activities, it's like not only are you getting the work done, but you are then developing yourself further. So I guess that's a little bit about me. I do have to joke about one of my little circles here. When Tara asked us to, sort of put a little together about ourselves, I put that my husband is NASA's Exploration Ground Systems Deputy Chief of Safety and Mission Assurance Officer. And I feel like he needs to be on an episode of this, because if you're asking what we really do, I'm not even really sure what he really does.
His title is as bad as your last name.
Exactly.
I was going to say the same thing.
When it comes to that. So yeah, it's
as a space nerd, I volunteer as tribute. I will interview him and find out what he does.
Yeah, let's invite him.
We'll find you an internship, Michelle.
So Janice, I wrote down two things. One, I think it's interesting that you started in hospitality, which is always an industry that I feel like multifamily is chasing.
Agreed.
and learning from, and we're always kind of behind. So I'm sure all of that history is coming into your role and kind of spilling into your teams. But you have to end the debate, because is it Marriott or Marriott?
Okay, did you see that video recently?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's a little irritating because I will tell you that I was on plenty of Marriott trainings and they said it as Marriott. So everyone in Marriott has gotten it wrong for forever, but at least I think that was David Marriott that said it. He was sort of like, it's okay if you say it a little wrong. Trust me, it was like mind blowing even to people that used to work there. So.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. And I just stayed at a Marriott property over the weekend, and it bothers me. But anyway, moving on. So these are the fun parts about the misconceptions. So I always gather a little bit of intel as I'm putting this call together. And some of the things I was hearing from people about the title that you and Michelle share is, okay, basically you're like approving cheesy training videos for LMS. You're picking out like the snappiest Zoom backgrounds for all of your virtual workshops. Somehow you're basically tasked with fixing low morale, but you only have a 45-minute lunch and learn to fix everything culture. And then also someone who's responsible not only for engagement and retention and everything in between, but there really is either no budget or very little budget. So this was some of the misconceptions I got ahead of time. Michelle, let's spend a minute or two on what you think the misconceptions are from your perspective.
There's some on this slide as far as, getting to create fun events and employee engagement and culture, and that's all fun. And I think the biggest misconception when I was thinking about this question as a whole is that learning is a support function. And I think the companies that get it, they get it right, is that it's in reality, it's a business strategy. Every training initiative that we produce from my team has a financial impact. We just spend money, but we do generate money. We have better retention. We create stronger leadership pipelines. We have a lot of impact on the kind of the unseen. So my job isn't just to make the training engaging. I have to be able to make it measurable. I have to make it relevant. It has to be aligned with where our company is going next. And that's not always easy. I don't just do workshops. I don't just do webinars. That's really probably 10% of it. The rest of it is really me, my team and I listening and navigating change, like change management. I think Janice probably could agree. Like change management is such a large part of my job. It's really convincing people that growth is worth the effort. And a lot of people are resistant to change, especially adult learners. What's in it for me, and why do I have to learn this? Because they come with a preconceived experience, or they come with experience and opinions before you even start training them. So it's not as easy as training a kid. A kid has a question and needs an answer. They trust your answer. And adults like, well, I don't care. That doesn't help me do my job better in their opinion, and they're not going to do it. So adult learning theory is a whole nother topic that I'd be happy to go down a rabbit hole with you.
And Janice, before I toss it to you, one thing that I think is like almost like a bumper sticker for what you just said is that you have impact on the unseen. I think we could almost do a call just on those 4 words, because between you and Janice and the impact that you have on your companies as a whole, a lot of it isn't visible. A lot of it is where you're unseen. So I love that you actually said that. So Janice, let's kick it to you and talk about some of the misconceptions you see.
Sure. So Michelle really hit quite a few of them. And I think I limited my answer here in a way because sometimes that's the view that people do have of us, is that we only teach. But it really is so much more complex than that. So often, and I love our human resources department, so this is no way to put shade towards them, but L&D has existed underneath human resources for so many companies for so long because that's a people resource department, right? You are either bringing in people from a recruiting standpoint, you are taking care of them through their journey. as a team member, or you're then teaching them, right? But L&D really has to be hyper connected to operations. That's the only way for us to have true business alignment and make an impact from the L&D standpoint, besides all the fluffy stuff, besides the fun parties and the pizza and all those things. If we don't consistently connect back to operations, we'll just fail as a department. So I think the big misconception there is, because we're a people department, we have to be like sort of hidden under that human resources umbrella. But for me, I see it as there's a collaborative approach here between human resources, learning and development, and operations together. And that's the way that we really live outside of that misconception. And again, like Michelle said, while we don't look like a money generating department, we have long-term business impact that when we track those types of things, there's positive impacts to retention, to engagement in, our, not only our products, but also the communities that we serve. So if we get really creative with metrics and KPIs, we can find ways that L&D does generate income in maybe less obvious areas. So
yeah, I love that. And I think the bumper sticker here is collaborative approach and hyper connected. I mean, everything that you said is so true, but even no matter what department you are in your company, that collaboration piece is so crucial. And I think what I love about this example is, like, I don't do any recruiting, Ashley does, but her and I collaborate quite a bit, and it helps each other learn and just make our roles even better for the company. So I love that you said collaborative approach. We're going to stick with you for the next question, but Ashley, I need to get some people chatting about, because we're leading up to a question about pie. So we're leading up to Thanksgiving and some of the other holidays. And we discovered on our pre-call that Michelle does not like pie, which kind of blew me away, but she does love pizza. So let's find out from the audience as we're going on to the next question what their favorite pie is. So Janice, let's stay with you. And let's kind of talk about, in terms of impact and culture, what's really the hardest part about leading culture work that most people would not expect?
So it's funny because I think it reflects back to some of the answers we've given. People think that sometimes culture is confetti, right? It's pizza parties, it's posters on the wall that say motivational sayings. It's so much more than that. It's really consistency by leaders and by team members. Leaders obviously take a bigger chunk of that and are more responsible for it. But L&D plays a role in that. We help to not only take a message, we then help to campaign that message or distribute that message further. So it looks fluffy. I think Michelle and I were joking around in the LinkedIn chat a couple of days ago about, aren't we just like party hosters, right? It's just like so much fun. And it is, don't get me wrong. There are some aspects of our jobs that are just truly so enjoyable. We get to be forward facing, people facing, we get to give hugs, and, people really love to be around us and our teams. But the true culture change or the true culture echo that we try to do is very hard. And it's also very methodical. We really, the best L&Ders are sort of like a pie. We're a little piece of marketing. We have to build a campaign to do things and to get that message out beyond just a handful of people. So I love that Michelle's background comes with marketing, because she's probably absolutely phenomenal at that. We have to be, like I said, hyper connected to operational things. We have to be connected to culture. We have such an important and integral platform as VPs of L&D and engagement, that's how we do echo that message. That's, we're up there with the speakerphone sort of doing that. So.
The culture is confetti was hilarious, but also very fitting about how I think a lot of people view your roles, but also The fact that you said consistency, I think, is the magic potion here. And I'm sure Michelle would agree. Before you take this question, Michelle, Ash, what do we have in the chat about pie? Is there any other like people that don't like pie?
I have found my people.
Yes. Yes. I'm honestly not surprised by this. Like on the dessert scale for me, like pie is very low too. Sorry. But there's a lot of different pies in here. So pecan pie, rhubarb. Rhubarb, is that how you say that? Rhubarb.
Rhubarb, yeah.
Pecan. Pumpkin pie with ice cream. Thomas, me too. Alyssa agrees with Michelle. No pie. Someone said pizza pie if I have to choose. Apple. So like maybe they like apple. Yeah. So general consensus is apple, pumpkin, pecan.
And I love it. Is it pecan or pecan? Isn't it fun? These pronunciations are hilarious. Michelle, why don't you take, what's your take on this question?
My take is that I don't eat pie. Oh, the hardest part about leading culture, Janice really covered quite a bit of, I would have to agree with everything she said. I do think that people think that a culture is built through programs or events, and it's really built into the everyday stuff. It's how a leader greets a new hire. It's handshakes. It's how we show appreciation. And I think for a lot of leaders or people who are growing into leadership roles, they don't expect how emotional it is. We're constantly balancing what the company wants to be, like what is the company going to be, and what are people actually experiencing. And I used to let people's perception or experience really take the wind out of my sails, but I had to remind myself that one person's experience doesn't equate to a failed mission. But there are gaps, and it just showed my emotions, and it showed that I cared really deeply about closing them. So I had to kind of bring it back in. And when I think about culture, the culture work is really a mirror as well for all of leadership. And I'm not just talking about people in the corporate office, like property managers. And I didn't get it when I was a property manager, but you can't shape culture without looking at your own habits and your own blind spots. And as I grew as a leader, I see it. It's messy. It can be very slow. It's a lot of personal work. And when I finally took that look inward, I could tell that people felt more connected to me. And then also that went into my work, and people were proud to be here. And that's when I knew that it was working, that the things, not just the events, were working. And we write letters to people. Several of us in leadership will write an anniversary letter or a welcome to the team letter, handwritten. And I go out and visit properties, and I see them hanging on people's desks. And it's such a small gesture, but I know that it's working. So it's those little things. Yeah, that impact for sure.
You mentioned Brett Duke earlier, and I would be remiss to not call him out on something that I think when you mention the mirror, and like to me is that reflective. How are you leading? Like what actions? It could be lip service, but what actions are you taking in your company to really exemplify that? And I'll never forget the times that he has talked about and shown up to properties and done the work of a groundskeeper or a porter for the day. That to me is like when you have someone that's up at the top and they're doing kind of the front line work, even if it's just a half a day, those moments to those employees really matter. So I love that reflective piece that you talked about.
Yeah, and that's what our leadership really does, that mirror work. I know for a fact that service that Brett does is because the person that he came up under in this industry as well, who's retired, Mark Briggs, he did the same thing. I was a regional, and he showed up at one of my properties, and the property called me and was like, what is he doing here in shorts and sneakers? And he wants my blower. So they really do model that. And I mean, it goes deep. Our COO, one of the owners of our company, he calls I don't know how many people, but it's like regional manager and above. He calls them on Christmas Eve to wish them a happy holidays.
Wow.
And to me, my phone rings and I get a little stressed because I'm like, why is Randy calling me? And then I remember what day it is. And I'm like, oh my God, he's doing it again. Because you think it's going to stop. But he has called every year for the last 15 years. It's
That's
wild.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
So
beautiful.
that mirror is so important.
It is, and since you don't like pie, we're going to change this to pizza for your example. So I've asked both of our guests to really kind of give us kind of some of the major categories on where their day goes. And we understand that everyone's day looks different, and some of these categories can be more front facing than others. But will you spend a minute or two on your day and why you kind of talk or chose these topics?
Yeah, I think when I sat down to really think about my day as a pie, after I got over the fact that it was a pumpkin pie, I was able to see that, there's no 2 days ever look the same for me. But when I thought about it, these were really the ones that stood out. So, Janice said earlier about collaborating, and I'm fortunate where I report to our chief of operations. So my collaboration with operations is right in line. We are side by side, tackling our to-do list. So that alignment and just connecting with our teams is so critical. I'm not just out there checking boxes. And the program development, listen, I couldn't do it without my team. I have an incredible group that I work with, and they create incredible content that makes me look wonderful in front of our teams. But a lot of times I'm behind the scenes really shaping that message and just making sure it's going to connect us to our on-site team members. I would say a lot of energy also goes into developing my own team. So I have to coach them. I have to coach them on how to become leaders themselves. And that's really one of the most rewarding things that I do. It was just Boss's Day, and I got a card from them and I have it on my desk. I probably have read it once a day for the last week because it's just beautiful to see the impact that I've been able to have just on my own team. Because oftentimes in leadership roles, we lose sight of like our own development. We're so focused on other people.
Mhm.
Of course, I said this earlier, change management. I picked that because that's a huge part of every L&D role. Every new system process, every change of that new system and process, with the amount of technology being rolled out, it's crazy. And my favorite part, because I am a storyteller, is that storytelling. And Janice said earlier, I was in marketing. Yes, and marketing is such a storytelling. And so people would ask me, like, do you miss marketing? And I'm like, no, I get to do the same thing. I just market to our internal customers. And I don't have to worry about the algorithms on Google, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Like, no, I miss the fun, dinner parties that marketers get together and complain about all those things, but I don't miss anything else. But at the end of the day, the storytelling and keeping people connected to our purpose is what is so fulfilling to me. And I love that my job's not predictable.
Yeah. I love the storytelling piece, and if anyone needs one of my favorite storytellers in our industry to follow on LinkedIn, Jake Zachariah, JZ. If you don't know him, he's fantastic. Janice, how much of your day and your pie or pizza, where is it going, and according to these categories that you've provided?
Sure. So, no 2 days ever look the same. There's always, it's that saying that the only thing that's ever, predictable is that there's going to be change. That's absolutely it. The technology piece of things as our industry is starting to come up more in that. And Tara, you said it a little earlier. We really are, right? Like learning from other industries. And so that piece of it where we're seeing a lot of technology being integrated into our company is a big piece of it. So really sitting down and thinking through an entire learning project, from start to finish is a lot of my day, and thinking through, even like right now, I'm spending a couple of days, weeks, even months figuring out what is 2026 going to look like for us. How are we going to try to answer all the needs within the company? So definitely just a lot of strategic planning, a lot of being behind the scenes, My trainers are out there more forward facing than I am a lot with our on-site team members. But same thing with me, as Michelle said, I love our human resources department, but I answer to our operations, our president. And I'm so glad for that. Throughout the week, I think I normally have probably 5 or 6 ongoing meetings where I'm mostly doing a listening role, and I'm hearing about things that team members need, new changes that are coming up, a policy that needs changing, and then to be retaught. So a lot of that is collaboration, is listening, is putting together plans behind the scenes, and then the execution piece is totally with my team as well. We do have to balance compliance and risk management. One of my roles to joke around about long titles, before I became our VP of Learning and Development, my title was Director of Training and Risk Management. I have since moved on from the risk management piece, love it still, and still tend to go back on that. But, unfortunately, our industry is a risk-riddled industry. And in ways we have to be cognizant of that. So, really supporting our learning through looking at policies and saying, what do we need to change here, not only to serve operations, but to ensure we're cognizant of liability, we're cognizant of, how can we mitigate risk. So I do a lot of strategic thinking and working with our executive leaders on items like that. Again, that operational partnership for sure. Like I said, lots of getting together with operational leaders, hearing about the day-to-day. That's where I find gaps in L&D and then have to sit down and go strategically, is this an L&D issue? Is this a people issue? Sort of triaging it. And if it is something with L&D, then sitting down and furthering that strategy. Of course, the culture piece, as we've sort of leaned into, but my other here is every day really is different. We may sometimes we'll read a book as a group together at work, and we want to make sure that message from that book is transcends to the other team members. So sitting down and really evaluating where we are as a culture, and our additional needs outside of the typical operational learning needs. So, but yeah, every day is different. I don't think I've ever sat in this chair more than for, a singular day and been like, oh, this was predictable. This is what happened yesterday. Not once.
Well, because did you also know you were going to be on a LinkedIn Live? Like, you're like, of course, Tara, I have I like all this free time in the world. Let me go ahead and do this for you.
All good. Time well spent.
Time well spent. So you listed culture activation, and that's something that leads into our next question. But you know what, I'm curious. I keep thinking about where we've all come from before we got our start in multifamily. Ashley, will you monitor the chat? I'd love to know from the audience, before you got into multifamily, what industry or job did you have? And we'll check back on that in a minute. But let's go to Janice. Let's stick with you for another minute and find out more about that culture piece. So what's one initiative that you've led that's tangible? Y'all.
It's not Monday.
It's almost like I'm trying to say Janice's last name. What shifted in your culture, in your organization, that you can think of?
I remember the time frame in which we started to consider an onboarding program. And I think that was such a critical time frame. And for any multifamily company, that is a critical time frame. And I remember feeling incredibly overwhelmed at that time, thinking like, gosh, I have no idea where to start with this. And I think my methodology there was, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time, really looking at that piece by piece. And I think some of the best L&D work is there's iterations of it. So what my plan was back in I think we started our onboarding program. I think it was either in 2021 or 2022. I can't even remember now. Iteration 1 is very different from how onboarding looks today at Bryten. And being okay with that, because I don't think anything within the multifamily industry, and maybe other industries as well, is set it and forget it. we are constantly having to relook back at what we've created and say, is this serving us today? We can't get into the mode of, well, this is the way it's always been done. That's such a dangerous statement, I think, for anybody in any sort of leadership or, supportive role. So I think from a culture standpoint for us at Bryten, really looking at onboarding and then reconsidering things through time to just make it the best program that it is today. And our onboarding, I'm proud to say, our onboarding scores generally are between 94 and 95% from a feedback and engagement satisfaction standpoint. So I think we've gotten to a sweet spot, but to continue that culture and to not have it shift in a negative way, we've always got to keep relooking at that.
I think what's interesting is I thought back to the word triage that you used on the earlier question, but I think how you said, is this serving us today, is kind of a form of that triage. So
absolutely,
I love that example. Before Michelle answers this, Ashley, can you think, like, in your mind, as you're placing people in the industry, wouldn't you agree that kind of the onboarding time is really like the most crucial piece of like when turnover can happen? Do you want to speak to that for a sec?
Yeah, I mean, it could be so make or break, especially in that 2-week window where you're like, please start the job. Like, please just get there on day one. So like when you have somebody, from HR, somebody reaching out that's friendly and kind and resourceful to answer questions before they get started, so that, it's Monday morning and they're supposed to start and they're like, where am I going? Like, that's just the scariest thing ever. So I think that this is so important. And then not just that, but once they start and they're getting acclimated in their first few weeks, is there any training? Are they just thrown to the wolves? Like, which can be okay in some cases, but it's so much nicer when it's like, okay, this is where we're going to start. This is what you're going to do, and kind of ease into it a little bit, especially for newer people to the industry, like leasing agents who have no idea what to expect.
I love that. Thanks for adding that. Michelle, do you want to add in your 2 cents to this question?
Yeah, and I love what Ashley shared. I think one initiative that really changed our culture is on our market rate side, we launched a perfect mentor program. We like to use the Atlantic Pacific AP and a play on words, so a perfect. And we built it to help the new team members feel supported from day one. And what we've seen is it's reignited like the connection across the company. So it gave our people who've been here, who've in for the long haul, it gave them, a new purpose, and it gave our new hires confidence. And so we measure the first 90 days and then a year. So we're looking at the impact that the program has there, and the results were real. There was faster ramp up time. There was stronger engagement on our new hires. And I think the most important thing is that there was a deeper sense of belonging. So for us, it was a good reminder that culture is not just built by the leaders, it's built by, peer-to-peer relationships. And I'm a data junkie as a former marketer, and we track those new hires on the market rate side who were hired and had a mentor, and those who were hired and did not have a mentor. And we measure their 90-day and 1-year life cycle. And we find that if we can get them to a year, they stay a lot longer. Our retention rate is, I think, 40% greater at last I checked with a mentor than without a mentor. So we're seeing great retention rates at both 90 and the 1-year mark. So I think that really helped shift our culture. We're actually building out a mentor program now for our affordable division. So excited for that.
And it's almost like you knew the next question. Yeah, go ahead.
We have some answers in the chat before we move on
tell me,
to what people were doing before multifamily. So let's see. Sydney was going to be a museum curator. That's pretty cool. Michelle, she was going to join the Air Force. That's pretty badass. So Jessica went to school for early childhood education while working at a preschool. We had Charlene in the restaurant industry. I think so many of us have a restaurant background. Hotels, restaurant again. And Melissa, hey Melissa, she was a manager at Chick-fil-A in college, and she had plans to become a psychologist.
I mean, she's kind of a psychologist as an asset manager.
I think that's a very fitting, like most of us in some way in multifamily have a little bit of psychology background, right?
That's right.
So you don't have to spend too much time here because you kind of touched on this with, I love the play on words, by the way, that a peer-fict mentor program. Anything else you want to add as we talked in the next question specifically about mentorship versus like training modules? Anything to add before Janice chimes in?
Yeah, I would just say that I wish that more companies understood that it's not like leadership is not developed through modules, it's through a person. And I didn't even know what mentorship was when I was 18 and trying to find my own footing. And that trainer changed how I saw myself. She didn't necessarily teach me everything I needed to know about leasing, but she made me believe that I could do it. And that's, I think, what stuck with me over the last 20 plus years. So I would just say that building programs that connect people to people, because at the end of the day, the mentorship is not just for development, it's to help keep people as well. So
I couldn't agree more, and you guys know how I feel about mentorship. Janice, what would you like to add from your perspective?
I think simply that mentorship isn't a checklist item. It's pretty easy for us to want to immediately drive into, these are the things we want our people to be mentored on. And mentorship is more fluid than that. If someone designs a mentorship program and hasn't been through mentorship themselves, it's going to look very much like another checklist or paperwork or some sort of rigid document, and say, sign this person up, and have them get together once a month and talk about these things. It's such a case-by-case basis. It's really about not only the mentor, but the mentee. And that is a two-way street. I have a mentor. She's outside of the industry. She's in L&D, but outside of the multifamily industry. And it's been such an incredible journey to get to know her. She's been my mentor for about 8 months now. We'll talk, and it's just, there's no necessarily agenda that we go into a conversation with. We just have this wonderful conversation. And as we sort of like discover something that we want to talk about, we dive in further. And I thought that experience for me was going to be me solely learning from her. And she has been so grateful of the things that all of a sudden I've said. And she goes, I didn't think of it that way either. And, we'll write down notes and send each other emails and send articles to each other. And so that's what I think true mentorship looks like. And it doesn't have to be this like rigid, detailed. We have to like let that person have freedom to explore the things that they're either struggling with or need some help with a mentor.
I love that. And what I wrote down, you said something about a checklist. So it's like making it less transactional, more transformational. And so I love that you spoke to both sides and how both the mentor and mentee can learn from one another. That's really, really, really impactful. While we go into the next question, I'm curious for those on the call, who has a mentor and who doesn't? I would love to know that. And ladies, I forgot to ask, are you okay if we go over time a few minutes to get to some more of these questions and some audience Q&A?
Sure.
Yeah, you guys are good? Okay, perfect. Janice, why don't you take this one? Let's just spend a minute or two on really kind of like, I kind of think of like a magnetic, like push-pull, like what the employees want to learn and what the business needs them to learn. That can sometimes be a little tumultuous. So how do you guys navigate that? Janice, from your perspective?
Yeah, it's funny because there's a book out in the like adult learning world right now that's called How to Stop Being the Order Taker. And it's for like L&Ders who, it does feel that way at times. And I think that's also a cultural thing that you have to get buy-in on, is to get away from this idea of like, everyone has gone through learning before. We all have that experience in school. So people, I think Michelle said it a little earlier, people come into that with a with an idea about what they're going to learn or what they want to learn and where they feel that they might not need our insights or guidance. And so I think to put a stop to that, you really have to like have buy-in from other leaders. But I also think like how do I want to say this? If you spend time connected with operations and you spend time with leaders, you're going to hear those wants and needs filtered through leadership. And those are going to be of a higher priority. So if you're staying connected, you're seeing those needs across a wider audience, not just like a singular person who's saying, I need this one little thing. You're seeing that culturally and you're seeing that across your organization. And then you're able to say, I haven't just heard this once, I've heard this multiple times. And then that is a business need that absolutely aligns. When all of a sudden you see evidence amongst more than one person. And that's something, at least for me, I can then go back to senior leadership and say, hey, I've sort of been a part of these conversations and I'm hearing that there's this need. Is this something we want to address right now? I'm happy to put some steam behind it, but I do want their buy-in before I just jump, feet in and start working on something.
I think that's brilliant. It kind of makes me think of the Simon Sinek start with why. Like in order to get the buy-in, you kind of have to give the why behind it.
Yeah.
Michelle, how about you?
Yeah, I think, it's the trick is finding that sweet spot. When Janice was talking, I was thinking about that. Like, it's the sweet spot, and it's how do we bridge the need and the want. And I think when I mentioned this earlier, adult learners, if something feels like it's being done to them, they kind of tune out. But if they feel like it's being done for them, they tune in. And so getting the messaging and the delivery to shift so that it feels for them has really helped me ease those tensions. Getting behind the products. And I'm fortunate where our operations team often lets me be the announcer of a new technology or new product. And I'm really good at messaging and delivery because of my background in marketing. And so I feel like it fits better with our learners ahead of their learning.
That's important, making sure the message lands, it resonates, and that it comes from someone with some credibility. Like,
Yeah.
you've been there before, you understand. So let's just pretend that there's somebody who is either on this call right now or someone who listens back to this and is considering a career as a VP of learning or just starting in that learning and engagement development. Michelle, we'll stay with you for this. What should they know before they jump in?
That they are, I consider myself a bridge between the businesses, the different lines. That's operations, it could be HR, it could be finance. So being ready to speak everyone's language, and that it's not always black and white. When you ask this question, immediately I went to gray area, because you have to get comfortable with leading through that gray. And some days I get to be this inspiring trainer and facilitator, and some days I'm troubleshooting. And one big thing that changed from role to role for me is in learning and development, I barely am in my email box. People will not get a response for days and days because I'm in the middle of creating something. And so all the work I used to get done on planes and during travel no longer gets done because I need my spaceship, all of my monitors and my keyboards and all the things. So it's a lot of sitting at your computer and doing work and collaborating. So if you want to influence people and you want to help shape someone's confidence and create a sense of belonging for people, and you are driven by those moments where someone says, aha, or I can do this, then I think, that it might be a good fit for you.
Did anyone else think of Janice's husband when she said her spaceship and like her?
I told you, I'm a space nerd. I've been trying to go visit him for years up in
We've
space.
offered. Well, this weekend, Michelle, let's go.
You don't want me there. Although I'm watching Invasion right now, and I'm pretty sure space aliens are coming to the world soon. So FYI, be prepared, they're coming.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Janice, what's your take on what people should know before they jump in?
Yeah, I think this is a two-parter for me. So one, don't get stuck in the mode of just creating, content for your LMS. It's like sort of a basic thing, but so frequently, especially in our industry, that was like the first learning that was available in our industry was, the LMSs that are out there, which are great. And they started us on a foundation, but don't get stuck at that point. There's so many other learning opportunities outside of just creating content. So that I think is my number one. The other part of that is you do not have to be a subject matter expert in something to teach something. You collaborate with subject matter experts, you learn from them, and then you help to translate that information into something where you can give all those best practices to other people. If you get stuck in like, well, I don't know this, both Michelle and I came through the industry, so we do know what it's like to be a community manager, to be in leasing, things like that. But I don't have a background in maintenance, and sometimes it can feel incredibly overwhelming to teach something in maintenance. But I partner with other maintenance team members to learn their best practices, to learn about their day-to-day. And then I play the role of translator. How am I going to take what I've learned from them and then scale that across the other learners that need that information? So don't be afraid to tackle a subject that you're not a subject matter expert in.
That's brilliant. The next couple questions are rapid fire, quick answers. But Ashley, let's make sure we keep an eye out. I don't know if you've seen any audience questions. We are going to stay over for a couple minutes to answer either a couple questions that you have as an audience, or we did have some come in ahead of time. But let's go to our quick rapid fire. So we'll start with you, Michelle. Best or worst job I ever had was?
Ooh, it was the one I didn't get paid for. The best job was being my son's mother. He's the best. And now he's in the industry, so even better. Look at that.
How do you top that answer, Janice?
Well, she gets to be a mom times two, so she wins now.
Yeah, agreed. Being a mother is by far the best. I'll go flip side. Worst. I once had a job where I had somebody tell me I was extremely emotional, frustrated with my position at that point. And the person was like, I'm so glad you're crying. It means that you still care. And I was like, I just wish I didn't have to get to the point of crying to like feel this way, So I'll go with that as the worst job. We don't need to get into the details, but any job that makes you feel that way probably is one you should reconsider.
I love that. We're coming up to Halloween. Maybe you're dressing with your sorcerer magic wand. So Janice, we'll stick with you. If you had a magic wand, what's one thing you would instantly fix in the workplace that's a challenge?
Oh, okay. Since I am located in Florida and we have communities across 13 states, I would instantly want to be able to get to those other places. Like I love virtual and I do love traveling, but sometimes the length of travel to some places is just the most exhausting piece of it. So if I could change one workplace challenge, it would be to get me and my team just wherever we needed in an instant so we could support people like right there, right when they need it. My magic wand is a time machine or like a portal.
Love that.
Amen.
Yeah.
Audience, put in your Halloween costumes coming up this Friday. Michelle, what's your magic wand moment?
Well, now I want to steal hers because when I go to Texas, I fly in on Sunday and out Friday night. And I've traveled to 3 major cities in Texas, and it is wild. But I would probably want to erase the mindset that learning is an event, kind of like a class or just a box to check.
Yeah.
And I'd want like them to see it as like a daily habit. Like everybody's in it it's woven into conversations and everything. Because right now it feels like we need a class for that.
We need a class. Yes. We'll just trade those magic wands at times, Michelle, and that way we can both, use them.
Yeah.
There you go. I love that. And Ashley had a special guest on her lap for a brief moment, which was so nice.
I know. I need my emotional support puppy dog.
Yeah, he is my emotional support Iggy, I will admit. He sits on my lap all day.
I love it. Janice, what's the most underrated skill a leader needs today?
Oh, gosh, this is a hard one. It's sort of an obvious one, but it's also a hard one. Accountability. And that's like not only self-accountability is the ability to then talk to your team about what they're accountable for. So it's holistic accountability, I guess, is maybe my like underrated skill.
That's really good.
I like that. I would say it's curious listening. When I think about this, you can't just hear people. You have to slow down and listen without judgment and build trust, because I think that's how you uncover better ideas. So I think in this world where everything is quick answers, quick everything, the best leaders are the ones that stay open and learn from the people around them by curious listening.
And curiosity, in my opinion, I've learned this as I've gotten older, is all about vulnerability. If you're vulnerable enough to ask the question, to be curious, it really kind of disarms people. Janice, you talked about a book earlier with your group and your team, but we'll start with you, Michelle. A book, a podcast, a resource, something that you can share with the audience that you recommend to every leader.
There's so many, especially if you have ever spoken to Dr. Debbie. But the one that comes to mind, aside from Simon Sinek and all of his books, I would say Brene Brown, Dare to Lead. That I'm big on vulnerability and courage, and she preaches that, and she teaches that they're not opposites. I felt like I wore a mask in this industry for the first 15 years of my career. I didn't let people know that I was 16 years old when I had my son. I didn't let them know that I don't have a college degree. I didn't want people to find out the truth about me, where now I wear it on my heart, and I share that because so many of us, so many executives are the same. And I think it's just so important to be vulnerable so that we can meet people where they're at. So Dare to Lead by Brene Brown.
And can I just say that anyone that watches this back and learns that fun thing about you're relatable, because we're all hiding something that maybe we're like embarrassed to share, a statistic, whatever. I bet you get more people connecting with you now because you've just shared something so vulnerable that's probably relatable.
Yeah, and it's only been over the last couple of years, really the last 5, where I started to do that work that I did when I left my safety space at Atlantic Pacific and branched out professionally. I didn't realize the immense impact it would have on my personal journey as well. So incredible. But Brene Brown helped a lot with that.
Yeah, Janice, how about you?
Oh gosh, like I said, because I read a lot. If you are from your question here, since it says leader, I'm going to go with Excellence Wins by Horst Schultz. Speaking to my hospitality background, he is the co-founder of the Ritz-Carlton brand. And literally every industry could learn from him. Otherwise,
where'd she go?
Okay, hold on. So I have if you're in the L&D space and you need some reading in L&D, just reach out to me. I went a little crazy at a conference bookstore a couple weeks ago. And have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I have 8 books on my to read list. So lots of great L&D resources out there, but I think leader focused one is definitely Excellence Wins.
So she's got a book swap club basically happening. Let's just take 30 seconds or so about your aha moment. Janice, what did you learn from Michelle today?
Oh goodness, that she utterly despises pie, which I was totally not expecting. I'll have to remember that the next time we go to dinner together. Pie. No pie. Actually, I think my biggest aha moment is we always knew that we were similar. The more that we've gotten to know each other, we've realized the similarities between us. But as she's talked about her L&D experience, which even though we sit down and we might have dinner together or run into each other at a conference, I don't know if we've ever really, we've never really talked about that in depth. We're too busy catching up with each other. The similarities that we've been through and the ways that she would answer a question, I'm like, oh, that's the way I was going to, you know, like, so I think there's that hidden, there's misconceptions definitely to our titles, but innately, I think we share a lot of the same struggles, ideas, goals, and that's pretty cool. So I'm glad I have a sister in the industry.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I love that. My aha moment from Janice was I made a note, actually. I like reached around. I was probably distracting everyone, but I needed a pen and paper because it was, I hadn't heard of the book, How to Stop Being the Order Taker. So I will order it and add it to my list of must reads behind me. Actually, I've read most of those, but yeah, I'm excited about that. And I don't have a mentor outside of the industry. So for me, I made a note that I need to, and that's so like me. So thank you for sharing that because you inspired me.
You're welcome.
I love that. And it's fun because a lot of our guests have become friends if they didn't already know each other. So I love just kind of that extra bonding. I love to read this statement. And since we're a little bit over, we'll just save time for one question. But I do want to say I thank you both because you have so many things coming at you and carving out the time to do this today. I'm sure there's so many people that benefited greatly from what you've shared and your vulnerability. But also, the next time you read a job title, don't stop at the words. Dig a little. That's that curiosity. Ask a question and discover the real impact someone is making behind the scenes, because titles don't define us. Impact does. I love to just kind of reinforce that statement. While I show our LinkedIn QR codes so everyone can connect with us, Ashley, did something come through the chat, or should we go to one of the ones that came ahead of time? I think we probably only have time for one question.
No questions in the chat, but we can definitely ask a question from a leasing agent in Phoenix. Her name is Brianna. She said, I know everyone learns differently. Some of us need visuals, some need hands-on. How do you balance different learning styles when your audience is spread across virtual, in-person, and on-site teams?
That's a good one. Who wants to take that?
Oh, I have something I want to say. You know, I like to pull back the Wizard of Oz curtain often in my classroom, especially in person. And I let my learners know, like, listen, if your neighbor looks like they're staring off in space, they might be learning more than you. So don't pay attention to them. Everybody learns differently. So I have visuals on the wall. And they might just be a picture, a quote, something like that. We have notebooks for the person who has to write every word I say down, because learners are so different. I'm not that person. I need a little bit of both. You have the people who are going to fidget. So I always have a bunch of stuff on the desk. It might be little paper things, something for them to touch. So I really try to be flexible about the design so I can connect them through not just discussion and role play and all of these other things. Might be a group activity, but then also virtually we use polls. We use the chat like Tara has today. So lots of opportunity, but I think implementing just several different formats. But I always tell people, like, I see you and I am with you, and there's something here for everyone.
That's amazing. Janice, what would you say from your perspective?
So there's a little bit of a myth behind learner profiles or learner, styles. So I try not to get too caught up in that. Definitely people do learn differently, but in general, if you are changing up stimuli and offering different things, then the point there is people can change that depending on the situation they're in, right? If you're sitting in a classroom, you might not like to sit in a classroom, but you might do great learning, by listening. So I try not to get too caught up in it, but definitely try to offer as many of our resources in different ways. During the pandemic, you know how like there was so much, it was just email, or virtual call. It was just those two options. I was like, you know what? Instead of just sending out yet another email, I'm going to record myself reading it. So if someone wants to read that email or they want to watch me talking about it on video, I was just trying to offer, I think that's the best goal there, is to offer different resources and make yourself available. The people who maybe struggle with listening might need to catch up with you a little afterwards and, ask another question. But also putting resources into their hands. At the end of a class, I'm big on, here's a one-pager, here's a document you can download, here's your workbook. So that way they've got something they can take along with them, and actually, when they're doing the work, they have that available as a resource then.
That's so good. And Tara, there was a recent study that my team and we attended, Association of Talent Development. It's a big organization for learning and development professionals. And every 7 slides, we have to get their attention back. And so every 7 slides, we try to incorporate something if we're using slides. So there's a lot of things out there. It's hard to stay on top of because it's always changing, kind of like, the internet. So it's good that Janice has 8 books, but 7 of them are already outdated as of today.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's wild.
That's so crazy. I would say too, one thing to add is I have noticed, because if I go to a conference or if I go to like an all day whatever, I need to stand. And so a lot of these rooms are set up where it's like you just have to sit. And I have asked permission, hey, without being a distraction, do you mind if I stand periodically? Because as I'm aging, my hips are awful, but also it helps me think better and stay more engaged. Is that something you guys like? That adaptability, I think is something to be conscious of, is to not have so many distractions. Maybe it's because the person's not comfortable.
They actually have schools like that. Like, we've looked at a school for my daughter, and they offer, the kids can pick what type of seating they want. So if they want to learn and they want to be on a couch, or if they want to learn and they want to sit on a yoga ball or whatever, they are now offering that in schools, because there are kids who are going to fidget and not be comfortable or whatever. So it's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's like Montessori school. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we round out? I know we went quite a bit over, but thank you for hanging in there. I think this was like super beneficial. Any final thoughts before we end out?
I would just say I'm happy to connect with anybody who is considering a journey in learning and development, or just has questions or wants to chat about, maybe they're already in learning and development and need a friend.
Agreed. Yeah. And maybe they need a mentor. So there we go. That's like the little bow on our little L&D package here.
Yeah.
Love that. Ash, how about you? I realized, Ashley, I didn't put your updated title on this slide, even though you just got promoted. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. No, I say this part during our aha moment, but no, I've just really enjoyed pulling back the curtain on what you both do and the way you blend strategy and creativity and learning. It's just really inspiring, and it's such a cool role, and to hear so much about it. I think the fact that you put so much emphasis on mentorship and retention is so needed and valuable, especially in our industry. And it's very clear why your teams are thriving. So I've never felt like I needed a mentor more. So thank you for sharing with all of us.
Oh, look at that. Look at the impact you've made. Well, thank you all. Thanks to the audience. And just as a wrap up, we are not going to have any more LinkedIn Live series this year, but we will be back in January. Just give everybody a break for the holidays. So stay tuned, but we're going to continue these on in the new year. So thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks,
Bye,
Janice.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ashley.